and set it up for each executable, so each task, and for the package itself, and for any containers, how you want to handle logging. First of all, we're going to look at this SSIS menu. And if I select it, notice logging is there along with a bunch of other things. Just a little pro tip for you. If you choose, there are certain things you can be choosing here, and the SSIS menu is different. This, by the way, is in complete violation of Microsoft's own GUI standards. But if you click on the SSIS menu, and it only shows up this way, and then the SSIS menu will come back. Another visual explanation or clue is the format menu either appears, or if I've selected something else, it goes away and the menu is short. Okay, so we want to make sure we get the full SSIS menu. We'll choose logging. Now, over here is my package and each of the executables on there. My package is called debugging demo, and I have 3 executables. Each one of them has a checkbox, and it's a 3-way checkbox. So let me kind of explain. There is an empty checkbox. That means I'm not going to do logging on this thing. You'll notice my package right now is set to not do logging. So no logging is going on. There's also a checkbox. I don't know how to draw this, but it's all grayed out. So like these 3 are right now. It's a checkbox, but they're grayed out. That means that I will do logging if my parent wants me to. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it on my own. So if, for instance, with copy source file here, it's a check but grayed out, it won't do any logging at all because its parent isn't. But if I initiated logging on the package, its parent, it would just inherit the log settings from its parent. Then there is checked with no gray. That means I am going to do logging on my own. I don't care what my parent says. I'm going to do my own. This is the teenage child. This is the obedient child kind of a thing. So checked with no gray in the background, it says I'm going to have my own settings. I'm going to do it my way. And I don't care whether my parent does logging or not. I'm going to. All right. So I'm going to come up here and check the debugging menu, debugging demo. So the package itself is doing debugging. And all 3 of these executables are going to inherit those settings. I'm also going to check load data, this task, this executable. So it's going to do its own set of logging. I don't care what my parent says. I'm going to do my own settings for logging. All right. So come back here to debugging demo. Here are our providers that I mentioned. I'll just add a couple. I'll add one for SQL Server, and I'll add one for text files. You could add all you wanted. Each one of them has its own configuration settings, but they are the 3 text file, XML file, and SQL Server profile are just file connection managers. SQL Server is just a database connection manager, and Windows Event Log has no configuration at all. It just writes to the log, so I don't need to configure anything. Now, before I do that, I'm going to open up Management Studio here, and I'm going to create a database. In the real world, I normally, well, I don't create a database, I create a database. I normally have a database on each of my servers. I call it maintenance, it wouldn't matter what you call it. It's just a place to store this kind of information. It's not information pertinent to my business, it's information pertinent to me running my server. So now I can come back here and I've got a log provider for SQL Server. I'm going to configure a connection to it. So I'll create a brand new connection. It's on MIA-SQL is the name of the server, and the database is the one I just created, maintenance. I'll test that connection, and it's good. Now notice it's not asking me for a table name. It's going to take care of that for me. It just needs the connection manager. My text file, I will also create a connection manager. And I'm going to come out here to D drive, and I'm going to create a new folder called SSIS logs. And that's where I'm going to put this. So I'm going to tell it to create a file. And I'm going to point to that folder that I just created. And I will call it demo logging. And then you can save it as whatever you want. I'm going to save it as .xml because that's what it's really going to end up being. All right, so I've added my my providers, but I haven't. This checkbox right here is saying for debugging demo, the one I'm dealing with right now, where do I want to write that information? I'm going to write that to my SQL Server table. And what do I want to write about it? Well, here are the details. I'm going to do on error, on information, and on task failed. Oh, and by the way, that will do a default set of information or schemas. I can click advanced, and I can then get very specific about what I want to record in an on error. But on information, I really don't care about anything except the execution ID and any messages that comes through. And I can set this up, configure it any way I want. And if you get it set up a particular way and you want to save that, you can just save it. It saves it as a file, and then you can go to other servers and load it in and copy the same thing. All right, but for my load data task here, I want something different. I'm going to write it to a text file, and I'm going to choose all of my events and all of my schemas, all of my possible writing objects. In other words, I really want to record everything about that load data. And notice it has a checkbox with no gray in it. So the settings here for debugging demo will be inherited by these two executables, the copy source file and the delete copy file, but load data is going to do its own thing. All right, let's execute this now. And there's my grid viewer, there's my problem, there's my issue. I can stop this. In here now, if I look under that table or that database that I created, I've got to refresh this, maintenance, and if I expand tables, there's nothing there. Wait, what's going on? Well, this is a system table, and its name is dbo.sys log, and I can simply select from it. And since it's any other table, you can filter it, you can where it, you can order it by, you can do any of that kind of stuff. But this is all the information I said that I wanted to receive about these events. Or I can come out to where I stored my file, and I'll try to open that with Notepad. Now, some people get freaked out and they don't like looking at it this way. Maybe it's just because I've been doing this for a long time, but the truth is once you really start to understand how to read these text files as log files, they get fairly easy and they get fairly simple. This is my preferred way of looking at them, but you should do whatever you like. Don't do it my way, do it your way. And that's how you set up logging.